It began as a dream.
Today, we are going to do something that many dreamed never possible. We are going to unite the people back with their river.
Tonight, take a first look at the Aquarium of the Americas. In a News-8 special report, Ken Wells explores the wonders of its depths as you experience New Orleans' $40 million addition to the Big Blue Wave.
Good evening, I'm Ken Wells. The Blue Wave, that's a phrase you hear a lot around the Aquarium of the Americas. The phrase means a new movement in America, a new excitement over the oceans that surround us and the world that floats beneath their surface. New Orleans isn't the only place that's building an aquarium. From Charleston, South Carolina to Corpus Christi, Texas, from Chattanooga to Chicago, aquariums are planning, building, expanding.
It's more than just a fascination with fish. Americans are coming to realize that our world is in danger, and 70% of that world is covered with water. The Blue Wave is part of a new interest in our threatened planet. And with the opening of the Aquarium of the Americas, New Orleans is riding the crest of that wave. And this is it.
$40 million to build. 3 years to finish, 20,000 animals swimming in 700,000 gallons of water. Want to take a look inside? Might as well. You paid for it. Come on. This is the lobby. This is the first look people will get of this aquarium. And the first thing they're going to see is right here. This waterfall represents what this aquarium stands for. The Aquarium of the Americas, North and South America. Beginning right here.
The Caribbean exhibit is on the first floor, a 130,000-gallon saltwater tank that recreates the coral reef of the tropics.
The big attraction here is a 30-foot-long see-through tunnel. Suddenly the fish are the ones doing the watching, and you're the one being watched.
Brightly colored angelfish, spiny balloonfish, and sleek cow-nosed rays.
Leaving the Caribbean, you'll suddenly find yourself surrounded by the sights, by the sounds of the Amazon.
This may be the most striking exhibit in the aquarium. It sits on the second floor under a huge glass greenhouse. This exhibit captures the Amazon rainforest, especially the animals. Deadly poison arrow frogs, scaly lizards, and the vicious razor-toothed piranha. At the other end of the aquarium's second floor, you'll find the Mississippi River exhibit, showing wildlife from the bayous to the beaches.
Here you become part of the Mississippi River as you meander your way past a ramshackle Cajun cabin.
Past white alligators, past rare paddlefish, and of course, catfish. And finally, you go back down to the first floor and the largest tank in the aquarium. This is the 400,000-gallon saltwater Gulf of Mexico exhibit. A sand tiger shark swims through the legs of an oil rig. A 12.5-foot sawfish lumbers on the bottom. And the largest tarpon in captivity floats by.
As you leave this aquarium, you take something very important with you. Your imagination. A new way of thinking about life underwater.
For this program, we asked kids at New Orleans Lockett Elementary and Jefferson Parish's Summer Arts Camp to use their imaginations and invent a fish they would like to see in the aquarium.
It has purple sunglasses, it has lipstick on, and it has a big green thing on its back. There's a shark, it eats fish, and anybody who mess with it gonna eat them up.
Well, kids, back to school is right around.
For the last month. But for the last year, this tiny warehouse has been packed to the gills with everything from tropical fish to huge sharks. And for the last year, curators have traveled all over the country catching those fish.
At times, the curators were more like rodeo cowboys than marine biologists. And the fish, like this sand tiger shark, were never happy to go.
Sand tigers are exactly what people think of when they think of a top predator, a big nasty shark. Although they're not probably amongst the most dangerous of sharks, they look like it. They can move lightning fast. It's the way they feed. They move from side to side and snap, literally like a nasty dog, and anything that hits their teeth is generally dinner.
Most of the fish weren't that dangerous. Sometimes it was just a case of going to someone's home to pick up a fish. Local people donated specimens from their own aquariums, knowing they'd be able to see them later at the Aquarium of the Americas.
Got fish on. He's off? He's not off. Look at him, man.
And some fish came from local sportsmen, like these Taropn fishermen who worked with curators off the Gulf Coast.
Okay, Elijah, we lost one, but we still got another one on.
It should be nice, next year or whenever the deal's done, bring your family and your friends up there and watch the fish in the tank and say, well, that one I caught, well, this one Barbara caught, and that one Dickie caught.
The local fishermen gave the aquarium something no other aquarium has.
Nobody's ever really tried to keep tarpon anywhere near this size alive in an aquarium. I mean, there are a few very small tarpon around the country, 10 to 20 pounds at most. But these rascals are 110 to 170 pounds, and no one's ever dealt with that animal before.
Tarpon are powerful fish that can jump and fight to the last of their strength. Curators could never have caught them without the help of the local fishermen. But most of the time, the curators were on their own, facing the long, difficult job of finding and catching fish. They found sand tiger sharks swarming off the coast of Delaware. They went after them with special hooks, stretched out on a 1.5 mile long line.
Circle hooks, it curves in, so it really only catches in the mouth. So you see, that's what we're using in sand tigers primarily.
Marty Wisner is a senior curator for the aquarium. He makes sure the 2-inch hook isn't too much of a shock for the fish's system.
What we have is a baby brown or sandbar shark, and the shark is one we just caught here, about 30 days old. Right now, he's coming out of the shock of just having the hook in his mouth, but he's also confined to a very small box at the moment. So therefore, it's still a little bit dramatic, no question.
The sharks still have to have enough fight left in them to make it from the boat to the holding tank, and then the holding tank on the long trip to New Orleans. Otherwise, you might as well throw them back.
Okay, bud, you're gonna get freezing in.
Oh, wow, look at that mama.
But when a big sand tiger shark snatches the line, curators have a hard time just bringing the fish on board. It's a savage, dangerous fight where one wrong move can cost a finger or hand.
When they're on the line or in the stretcher, they're really mad, and any movement around their face or head will instigate them snapping. So we really have to be careful.
The hook comes out. The huge sand tiger shark slips into the holding tank. Crowds will see this fish at the Aquarium of the Americas, but they'll have no idea how hard he was to catch.
And despite the danger of handling these big fish, none of the curators were ever hurt. That says something about the skill of those curators. And while they were chasing down the fish, News-8's George Ryan says the aquarium builders were racing against time.
Transforming this weathered wharf into a water wonderland wasn't easy. First, voters had to decide if they wanted it at all. They did, overwhelmingly. And what were paper dreams of fish squirmed to life with passage of Proposition 6.
And today, we are going to do something that many dreamed never possible. We are going to unite the people back with their river.
Nearly 3 years later,
unheard of, never been done before.
A race to completion.
I've never given birth, and but I can at least sympathize with what it's like.
Clyde Butler oversees the 950 construction workers who will remember this challenge for a lifetime.
Think it's gonna be ready? I hope so.
At one point, a wooden plank is all that separated electrician Ronald Wolf from a tank of hungry sharks.
A little scary, but you got used to it. You got used to it.
By studying the problems at other aquariums, like the one in Baltimore, the Aquarium of the Americas is literally on the cutting edge of construction.
We super designed all the things that will allow us to do, to maintain these animals for a long and hopefully happy lives.
Every system in this building is backed up by a system, and then there's a backup to a backup. Nobody wants to see floating fish.
Rust is perhaps the #1 enemy in this saltwater environment. So you see plenty of fiberglass, plenty of plastic, even plastic electrical conduit, the only building in the city exempted from that part of the building code. You won't see the 100 tons of epoxy-coated steel here, but it's there, largely because of what was learned in Baltimore. Without the coating, steel rods rust, and cement supports crumble, causing a $6 million repair bill.
When you get your first look at the fish in the Aquarium of the Americas, you'll be looking through not glass, but plastic. Very thick plastic, as you can see. And believe it or not, this is one of the thinner versions that will be at work in our aquarium.
In all, more than 76,000 pounds of this acrylic is used here in 17 windows and 1 tunnel. In short, it is a $40 million monument to the way life is changing on the river. Fewer longshoremen, more tourists. A crown jewel on the muddy water's edge. George Ryan, News-8.
Of all the thrills and spills in the building of this aquarium, this one was the biggest one. The first window that was supposed to go here slipped from a crane and crashed to the ground. Luckily, no one was hurt. And when we come back, we'll take a look at what's on the other side of that glass.
He lives in the Mississippi River water, and it eats little pretty fish.
He lives in pretty deep water, and I think he was special because he has all the pretty colors in him.
The aquarium, you'll be separated from these fish by acrylic windows that are up to 13 inches thick. A small group of divers are going to find nothing between them and the fish but water. Let's take a look at that world. Down here, the fish are at home. The people are the outsiders. These divers are unpaid volunteers who go underwater to clean glass, maintain the exhibits, and feed some of the fish. It can be difficult, even dangerous, but getting here was the hardest part. When the aquarium asked for 75 volunteer divers, it got 900 applicants. First came a written test.
Don't be worried. You don't have to get perfect. You just got to get better than everybody else.
I went through the dive program as an observer, taking all the tests, going through all the training. The written test was followed by an underwater test. And then a teamwork test, as divers helped pour 100 tons of sand into the then unfinished Gulf of Mexico exhibit. These people really wanted to dive.
Once you start diving and you get to love the fish and the entire environment, it's something that sticks with you, and you just got to do it.
2 months ago, the final 75 divers were chosen, and they started an intensive training program.
There's a heck of a lot of training that's involved, and so we want a group of people that has a good foundation to add all this knowledge to, someone we don't have to teach the basics to already.
All of the work would be worth it when the divers were finally allowed inside the aquarium exhibits. A week ago, I was one of the divers who fed fish in the Caribbean. For the fish, this was just a meal. For me, it was a thrill. And for visitors, it will be part of the magic of the aquarium.
And little kids love divers. I mean, the ability to breathe underwater is something that's really pretty foreign to kids. And so they love to see the divers in the water. They love to see the divers actually in the water hand feeding the fish. But
the Gulf of Mexico exhibit is a whole other kettle of fish. A dive here starts with a lecture about getting along with the sharks.
Never be anywhere near from the tip of his nose to the end of his mouth. Avoid that confrontation. They can snap faster and snap back at you faster than you can blink.
Divers won't feed fish in the Gulf exhibit. It's too dangerous. But in this tank, they are underwater janitors, cleaning the inside of the windows to keep algae from growing. While they are busy scrubbing, a safety diver fends off the curious sharks.
Yes, these type of sharks are pretty docile, though you have to respect that you're diving in with animals 800-900 pounds. They're a lot bigger than you are. You just gotta do what you gotta do and complete the task at home.
My Gulf dive was the experience of a lifetime, but just the same, I was glad to get out.
Now, New Orleans has been swimming in its own treacherous waters, and the economic sharks have been circling closer, ever closer. News 8's financial specialist, Peter Raschuti, says a lot of people see this aquarium as a real lifesaver.
Take a beautiful spot on the river, add fish, tourists, and voila! You have what the city hopes is a recipe for economic success. The aquarium hopes to draw 868,000 visitors in its first year, with most of them coming from within a 250-mile radius around the city, a radius stretching from Texas to the Florida Panhandle.
Of the 868,000 that we're projecting for the first year, 250,000 of that is projected to be new tourists who wouldn't have come otherwise. And that 250,000 is what generates all the economic impact.
The aquarium is expected to generate over 1,200 new jobs and $55 million in total economic impact. But even these impressive statistics probably underestimate the dollars and jobs that will be generated by the aquarium. Similar projects in Boston, Baltimore, and Monterey, California have had nearly double the economic impact projected here.
We're basing our financing and our projections on what we think is a conservative number because we feel it's very important to exceed our goals and not be falling short of them.
Between 75 and 90% of aquarium visitors are tourists, but local support for the aquarium is very important.
We're up to about 24,000 bricks. We have about 7,000 charter members for the aquarium, plus about another 12,000 other members for the aquarium. The response is just overwhelming, and we got to deliver.
Peter Raschuti, News 8, New Orleans.
And to answer the most important economic question, the price of admission here is $7.50 for adults, $4 for children.
A goldfish with big eyes, so he could see better underwater.
It bites people and it has good eyes to see.
Brick walkway leading up to the aquarium, one name stands out. Audubon Institute Director, Ron Forman.
From the very beginning, Ron Forman was the one who said, "We will have this aquarium open on Labor Day, no matter what it takes," even though that meant working under some killer deadlines.
News 8's Warren Bell talked to Ron Forman shortly before the aquarium opened. The first question, why was Labor Day so important?
I think the most important thing, it wasn't Labor Day, wasn't the secret. The secret was that we have to start having confidence in ourselves in New Orleans. This project is being designed by local architects, did a tremendous job, built the finest aquarium anywhere in the world. It's being built by local contractors, local carpenters, electricians, plumbers, they're all out there working. They're all local people, and it's being operated mainly by local people. We have to show the rest of the world that we can do it right, we can do it first class, and being on time is part of that project.
Ron, you mentioned the fact that a lot of the national experts on aquariums have already been to New Orleans and told you what a wonderful facility it is, but those same people are going to be invited to lots of other places over the next few years, places planning to open aquariums, Corpus Christi, Texas, Boston, New Jersey, Tampa, Florida. Aren't you a little bit worried that we are going to be part of such a bigger overall picture that New Orleans really might not benefit as much from the tourism as we projected when we began our aquarium project?
I like to think that every city could have a major aquarium, and it would only help us. And also, we have to remember, the purpose of the aquarium is to be educational, and it's supposed to teach people about the environment. And if each city can do a good job teaching people and teaching families about the environment, that can only help all of us.
Ron, we haven't even gotten phase 1 off the ground yet, and already you've begun mentioning to people your ideas for phase 2, the need for an additional $20 million expansion. I wonder what kinds of things people can look forward to 4 or 5 years down the road once we get this under our belt.
We can make New Orleans a center, a leader for environmental education in a fun way, linked by paddle wheel boats, linked by streetcars, and bring millions of people to our city. At the same time, the families are coming and visiting our city. It's creating jobs, but it's also an education center where our kids are growing up to appreciate the environment and protect the environment. And I think that's really the dream for the future.
Tonight, we've told you a fish story. Not a story about man catching fish, as much as a story about fish catching the imagination of man. And we've told you about a city, New Orleans, which has all of its hopes, its dreams, its future, riding the crest of the big blue wave. I'm Ken Wells. Good evening.